Welcome to Patscast, the unofficial Regina Pats podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
And this is our episode for January 17th, 2022.
Side of the net, Nyhoff to Bedard, shoots, score! What a shot, he pops the water bottle off. Feist finds Howe. Anglot takes his pass over the attacking line, left side driving to the goal, backhander off the side of the net, they score! He sneaks it through Anglot with his sixth of the season. Tanner Howe back to the midpoint, Riker Evans to Howe, one-timer, score! What a shot by the 16-year-old.
Well, Chris, just one game to talk about. It's been a while since we recorded. The Pats, of course, had a few unexpected days off. I think it was, 15 days between games? Last game was January 1st that we talked about.
Yeah, the big Moose Jaw win.
So a couple unfortunate postponements, but seems like things are coming around in the WHL altogether. I think all the teams are active again, which is great. I think
there may be a pause on Winnipeg, but
okay.
Other than that, yeah, it seems like everybody was back until today. Kind of the news for Winnipeg that they're on just hold.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so overall, pretty good feeling going around the league. Of course, today was trade deadline, so we wanted to wait to record this rather than Sunday and get it out the Monday, because today being Monday was the trade deadline. We wanted to capture any of that news that came out and then, talk about the Moose Jaw game. So before we get into all the, I would think the main topic this week is all the roster moves, not just the trade deadline, but a lot of movement with personnel on the Pats roster over the last couple weeks. But before we get into that, let's talk about this Moose Jaw game. So the second time we've played them in a row now, I guess if you can call it that, even though it's been 2 weeks between the games. The last one was a 7-6 win for the Pats in overtime. Bedard's great game. This one, we scored almost as many goals. Moose Jaw didn't score as many. They were on a 3-3. They did look a little tired. But we were talking about this game when we were watching it. For the first little while, the Pats did seem to be dominating them, and I think they got up 3-0 pretty quick. But overall, it didn't feel like didn't feel like a 7-1 game to me.
No, definitely not. Moose Jaw scored that goal, their only goal, I guess, and then they really had some good zone time after that until the end of the first period. And then, Moose Jaw's back in it. We got the jump on them with the tired legs there. And, the second period, it could have went, I think, maybe either way, but we got that first goal. And I think that really turned the tide, I think. I mean, that 5-1 there early in the second. And after that, it wasn't, there's a lot of posts in the game from both teams. So it could have been a lot closer if Moose Jaw caught a couple of those. Like
the last game, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I don't know how many posts Moose Jaw ended up having, but it had to be
4 at least.
To 5. Yeah, it was. It could have been a much closer game. Nice to get the win. These are those games you should win after 2 weeks off. I guess it's always that conversation if it's rust versus rest, what's better. In this case, it seemed like the rest was better for the Pats rather than playing a 3-3, which I think we started to see in the third. I thought, when they were down, Moose Jaw was down that much, I thought this third period could get a little feisty. They could get a little frustrated. We did see it kind of boil over a little bit more so than we had seen lately. Hey.
Yeah, I think with the score that really happened. Obviously it's not going to happen in the last game when it's a 1-goal tie game kind of situation. But yeah, Tedachuk really didn't take too kind to Nyhoff just skating by him.
Yeah.
That was interesting, but So, and then we've seen a big hit by McNutt and the import Raisavi standing up for himself. I thought, he's in trouble, but man, he held his ground, and that was a pretty fair fight either way. And I thought it wasn't going to be, so
he really
good to
did.
See that.
He was. I would almost if you don't want to call it a draw, I would almost give it to him rather than McNutt.
Yeah,
it was definitely a good tilt. Yeah, it was. I kind of felt like the referees were just on the brink of losing the control of that game. They were just not calling things that I thought maybe could have brought down the energy a little bit.
I think it all started with I think it was Evans getting cross-checked into keeper.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe if they call a penalty there and it maybe that stops it here. Like they kind of let that go. I didn't think that was maybe the best idea. I don't know what they were thinking, and then the net was off, and the face-off still in the Pat zone, which was totally the wrong call. And so they I don't know, made some interesting decisions, but
they did. We did notice near the end of the game, Bedard wasn't out very much. Probably for the best. Things were getting a little chippy, a little rough out there.
Yeah, and and he was kind of taking the brunt of it, it seemed.
He was getting roughed up a fair bit for being one of the smaller guys on the ice. But you start scoring goals like that, you're going to draw a bit of attention too, right? So
yeah, for sure. He probably could have been plastered to the bench beside Bedard, I think. He's just as valuable, I think.
Yeah. He doesn't quite get the response though. Like if anybody hits Bedard, it's gloves off.
Yeah.
How
for sure.
How has to kind of fend for himself a little bit.
Little bit, yeah. But it doesn't seem like he backs down from it either.
He doesn't, no. And then even Bedard was throwing some hits out there too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So overall, it was a decent game. Always nice to beat up on Moose Jaw. Put up 7 on him. I really wanted the snowman, just so we could say that. But nice to get back in the win column, get a couple against those guys, and Moose Jaw's. They're up. They're in the standings there, and we are chasing them. So these are big points to try and get. So any win against them is a good one.
Definitely.
So we did. We pulled the radio interview that Dante did with Ken Schneider post game. We just want to listen to that and get his thoughts on that. If you didn't hear it on the radio.
Ken, Al and I talked about it throughout the hockey game. This was a complete game for your group. Would you agree?
Yeah, I really would, Dante. I thought fundamentally we did a lot of the things that we've been trying to work on the last couple of weeks. So we've had a lot of downtime, and so there's always the fear that you get kind of slack with practice, and then our opponent has had a game or two under their belt before we got our first game back. So. But yeah, we did a lot of things right. We're really pleased with how we played defensively, even when we had the puck in the opponent's zone. So we're trying to build a better team defensively, and I think tonight the guys kind of took that to heart. We did have an opponent that, let's be honest, they had played back-to-back games, and this was third game in 3 nights. Yeah. So they were bound to be a bit tired, and it was up to us to take advantage of that. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime that you can kind of keep an opponent under 25 shots in a game, it always gives you a chance to win. And so yes, we were pleased with that. And again, that our 7 goals are a reflection of our defensive play. To be quite honest with you,
I think what he's saying about it being a defensive game that got the goals is why it didn't feel so necessarily flashy. Like it was some good power play goals that looked good, but it wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't like a high energy, high scoring game. It didn't feel like, but overall, it was. A good win in the end.
Yeah, like you said, anytime you can beat Moose Jaw and the head of us in the standings, it's a good day, right?
Absolutely. So, like I said in the intro here, a lot of roster moves to talk about. So let's just start pre trade deadline day. So we may have noticed, and this was maybe us reading a little bit too much into this, we saw that a 20-year-old was added to our roster. So Nathan Salami out of, I guess we'll say Brandon. He was acquired by the Royals in October for a 5th and 6th round pick. Never did play a game from them, from what I can tell. Ended back up with Brandon and then was on waivers. So we selected him off waivers as a 20-year-old. Got us thinking, why do we have an extra 20-year-old now, right? Because we're up to 4. Started getting our wheels churning that maybe Evans was involved in a trade. Certainly someone we thought was probably our biggest asset to sell off. And it later came out that Zach Smith was, I don't know, quote unquote, suspended.
Yeah, it sounds like he'd left the team,
Right.
and so they suspended him and then released him.
Yeah. So that freed up that 20-year-old spot. So, yeah, Zach Smith no longer with the Regina Pats. Kind of had a slow start, had one good game, it felt like, and got injured in it, unfortunately. And just, I don't know, maybe never really got back in his groove, and who knows what was going through his head. Some personal decisions or what happened there. But so Zach Smith no longer with the team and replaced with a defenseman, Salami. So that's our 20-year-olds spots filled now. Other news is so Getzy is no longer with the team either. So he was filling that import spot. So we do have an open import spot. I don't know if you'll be able to fill it now going forward, but so I imagine he's back home.
Yeah, I guess so. I haven't seen anything, but yeah, open import spot. Yeah, I doubt it. That's getting filled from this point on.
Yeah.
So
and then Jake Johnson's home with his family back in the States. That's about all the information we have on that. No, any expected to come back this year at all?
Doesn't sound like it. His status was similar to Smith's, where he should have been back after the new year, and then it changed back to week. So I highly doubt he's back this year. And talking to John Paddock today, he referenced Johnson, and then he said he hopes to be back next season. So it's kind of a question mark there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's been just snake bit here. I feel bad for that guy. He just has had that injury bug, never seems to be able to get going, and it's too bad because I think there's a lot of potential there. We just haven't got to see it really pan out yet. So yeah, hopefully we get to see him next year. But he's from Arizona. Who knows what options and opportunities he has there going forward. So now into some additions. Logan Linklater was added to the team. Played last year, and I remember his name because I actually know someone with that name. I don't think there's any relation, but his name stuck out in my mind from the Hub last year. Hearing it, was playing with the SJ this year. Yeah, Brad Haroff was talking about him earlier, and actually that little bit of that transition of the SJ to the WHL, and says it can be a fairly big step. But so Logan's played in the WHL and should be able to make that step for us. Fill in some of those holes that we've been just talking about. And then, so then the news today, going into trade deadline. What were your expectations going in today?
I fully expected Evans to be traded.
Yeah.
And also maybe move some of those O2s, the 19-year-olds that we kind of are going to lose at the end of the year for nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so they moved two of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Evans didn't pan out. So John Paddock talks about that, and we'll let him tell you the story there. And but other than that, I didn't really think much else would happen. And
yeah,
it looked like there wasn't going to be much at all. And then last minute, the Cadu trade kind of came last minute as well. So
yeah. So to summarize, Tom Cadu off to Vancouver for 2 picks, a 3rd and a 6th round. That one was a little bit surprising. I didn't really expect him to necessarily be on anyone's radar, but a decent return for him, I think.
Yeah, that's more than we used to acquire him. So
right. So anytime you can do that, that's a good move. Drew Englot, I'm not overly surprised by that, actually. I think when we were talking a few weeks ago, I kind of thought he would be someone that might get some attention. Just that role player that he is, and I'm sure he can fit into a team. And he's off to Kamloops, and this was a player for player trade. So Ty Spencer, an 04 coming back to us. So he's a Saskatchewan guy. Played with the Blazers the Contacts up in Saskatoon, I think it was. One of them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So maybe had some local scouts seeing him and had him earmarked to come back to Saskatchewan. So, getting a little younger, which is always good. We'll see how he develops for us. But yeah, Englot certainly. I think that's going to be a miss. He was a good player, and I think he was good in the dressing room. Brought a lot of grit, and Kamloops is getting a decent player, hopefully for their run here.
Yeah, like he's a guy that, like you said, a role player for a more skilled team in Kamloops, and bring some size, some grit, like the face-offs. He'd be that third line guy, killing the penalties, doing all that, the hard work for those. And just to supplement those skilled players in Kamloops, because they're having a solid year and they're looking to make a good run here.
Yeah, I think he'll have a good role there. You're right with that, some of that high end talent that they have, and then a guy like him come in on the third line or something like that, and be able to grind and kill some penalty minutes and stuff like that. I think he'll do well. But I agree. It was I think we all expected Evans to go somewhere, but. Just didn't seem to pan out, it sounds like.
Yeah, it definitely didn't. And John said he had lots of calls and lots of discussions and just couldn't get a deal done. So
yeah. So we actually have some clips from John Paddock here. He did a press conference after the trade deadline had passed today. So we will let him talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I've been talking with Sean regarding Drew and Tyler we've been talking quite a while. Anything else that was talked about or happened? I mean, I had lots of discussions regarding Riker. Tommy's thing sort of came out of the blue the last half hour, and we just thought it was a right time to get a couple of assets. Tom's been a good player. I'm especially pleased with how he's played the last month or two. But when we look going ahead, we've signed some other defensemen. Corbin Vaughn will be on the team next year. We hope that Jake Johnson's back on the team next year. So our defense has some depth to it, and Tom would be an overage player. So we thought it was just best to strike now. And Riker, I would say there was some expectation there, and it didn't get met. And he's him and I had a good meeting last night, just outlining different things. I texted him a little bit after 4:00. He got back to me shortly later saying something along the lines of no problems. Glad to finish my career as a Pat and looking forward to the playoffs. Drew's been a real solid citizen and improved and, brings lots of intangibles to the game he plays. But sometimes you just got to make those decisions. I mean, Kamloops really wanted his intangibles to a team that they hope to take a shot at winning. Ours was a little bit of we're just in a bit of a different mode. We have full intentions of playing in the playoffs, but we're still in a different bit of a mode. And, Ty gets a chance to work in with, Braxton and Leighton Feist and Boria Vallis as, 04s, Zane Rowan, and obviously what Howie's showing as an 05. The Connor situation we know is unique, but good young player. So it was just, it was a timing thing. And it was just one of those things that's best for the organization. It's a little bit harder when you're trading a 20. Just because of the spot, you can only have 3 of them. That comes into a factor in it, but we were always willing to take back a 20, but it was just not what he's worthy of. I'll repeat myself, I'm biased, but he's the second best defenseman in the league to Gooley, and that's how I feel about him. And we lowered in negotiation with one team, especially, we bargained back and forth, and it just came to a spot where it wasn't suitable for me. Well, he's certainly a big part of our team. I really like our defense right now. With adding Nate Solani, we're adding a guy who comes with glowing references from Brandon as far as his character and teammate, and we know he's a good player. We've seen the stuff on the ice for 3 years. So, I think our defense of the 7 guys we have is as good as it's been all year, but better. People like Stan have more or less a half year under his belt. Leighton has a half year under his belt. Same with Parker Berg, during the season. Not forgetting the hub last year, but just counting it as more real. So, we feel very good about our defense. We'd have felt very good about it if Riker wasn't here. We feel very good about it now, too. We got a young player that we like a lot, that we believe is going to grow into something each year better and better. And we definitely gave up something in Drew, but it's just where it went. And we like our young players on the come. You're not asking this kind of question, but the bigger points for me are, for example, Matthew Wood, coming next year. That's like a home run bonus. And we hopefully that he is in our lineup next year. That's better than any trade we could have made today if that happens.
So just before Matthew Wood, he's really wanting this player. What do you think the chances are of that?
I mean, I think it's pretty slim at this point.
Yeah.
When you see John Paddock tweeting at Matthew Wood on Twitter, I mean, John doesn't tweet ever.
Yeah.
And when he come across that earlier in the season,
yeah.
I think it was, and I mean, I don't want to say it reeks of desperation, but I mean,
it's not in his character. It's
no,
odd.
No, exactly right.
It's weird, hey.
So I mean, I think they're trying their damnedest to get him here, and I mean, I think everybody would love to have him here, but
yeah.
I think it's slim. I think obviously I don't have any insight, but
right.
It just seems slim, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. I want to talk about. So they were in talks with a team about Evans. Who do you think it was?
I don't know, but I think he would have been a great fit in Winnipeg.
I think
that fast-paced team, high-skilled. I think he would have
looked good there.
Very good, yes.
I would have liked to see that. The only other team I thought maybe would be, I don't know if he would fit into their system though, would be Red Deer.
Yeah.
Right.
But they made a move earlier for a defenseman.
Okay.
Earlier in I don't know what, last week sometime.
Yeah, but it all comes down to that 20 situation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If they're happy with their 20s, they may not want to do those moves. So
exactly, and I'd have to look at Winnipeg's 20s. I can't think of offhand which ones are which, but he would have looked really good in Winnipeg.
Yeah. All right, so the dust is settled on trade deadline. What do you think? Who do you think's a front runner? Do you think Edmonton's move, picking up Sourdiff from Vancouver, really puts them ahead?
It's gonna be. I think the question is it's Winnipeg and Edmonton. I'll be surprised if it's not them in the East Final.
Yeah,
I think maybe Edmonton just has a little more experience.
Yeah,
a little more size.
They have that age. Winnipeg is
young,
fantastic, but
yeah.
I don't know. You get into the deep playoffs, it starts getting a long haul. I would agree. I think Edmonton is going to have that leadership and that experience and the little bit of extra grit that might be able to take them that extra step.
Especially with the lack of experience all these players have, not having playoffs for the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Edmonton's maybe just got that little more, like a guy like Gooley, he's already won it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Absolutely.
There isn't many of those guys left right now, right? And that's kind of surprising. Maybe a guy like Ozzy Weisblatt didn't get moved. Same with talking about Evans not moving.
That's a really good point too. Yeah.
But so it's going to be interesting. These playoffs should be good, right? They got 2 really solid teams that are. I'd be surprised if they're not in the finals. So
yeah,
in the East Final.
Good. Anything else you want to wrap up with trade deadline?
I don't think so. I think it was a solid day. I don't think they were looking to, sell the farm or anything, right?
No.
and they made a couple moves, and it is what it is. They got one player. I thought maybe another roster player, but
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I think the league in general, there's still some uncertainty
Yeah, some hesitancy, right?
about the whole season. So
Definitely. I mean, Edmonton doesn't think so. They're going for it. So
they are going for it, which is awesome. So looking forward for the Pats here. Just a couple games this week. Kind of a funny schedule. So a Tuesday and a Friday. There was supposed to be a Saturday game. It's postponed. So just the Tuesday, Friday. Kind of weird not having a weekend game. Hey.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, they were supposed to be in Brandon this coming weekend. They were supposed to be in Winnipeg last weekend, right? So
Yeah.
it's
So
but that Brandon game, so it's still the scheduled game. It's just here instead of in Brandon, but that's going to be on TSN as well.
Oh, right. That's important to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had 2 games on TSN this past Friday. I kind of had flipped them on, and it was all right. Nice to see they had some coverage. They had, 2 different crews at the games, not calling them from TSN or anything. And then they had an in-studio crew with Carlo Koliakovo and another player I don't played in OHL that I'm not familiar with, but
Okay.
Carlo, he played with the Maple Leafs for quite a while and
All right.
stuff. So I thought it was a pretty good production and stuff like that.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, so if you can't make it to the game and you don't have WHL Live or Access, I guess Access wouldn't be doing it too if TSN
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
No. Check it out on TSN. If you're not at the game, there was not a lot of people at the Moose Jaw game.
Yeah, I know. That was with it being rescheduled, so people weren't planning to go to a game, and then it was super nice on Sunday. You can't really blame the public for that one.
Yeah.
Like that.
And it's NFL playoffs. I think that kind
That's
of might
true. Yeah.
edge into it a little bit. So, regardless,
As poor as they've been this
as-
weekend.
it was not a wild card weekend for sure.
No.
Another thing I want to talk about was the scouting report came out, the mid-season scouting report. So Matthew Keeper and Leighton Feist both named on there. So kind of nice to see getting some recognition, some young guys. And anything else you want to go over this week?
I don't think so. I think that's about all I have.
Good. Well, that Brandon game will actually be kind of exciting. Svozil will be done his 2-game suspension. That'll be 20 days that he'll be suspended for 2 games. That sucks.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to have him back and see our new players on the roster. It should be a big stage. I think I'm expecting the Pats to step up to that one.
Yeah, and then the Calgary game, that's another team that's just ahead of you in the standings.
Yeah.
That's kind of a key game there. We haven't played Calgary since that kind of Sunday morning debacle.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring that up again, but so hopefully we can give them a better run this time.
Absolutely. What's your predictions here?
I think if we can get 3 points out of this weekend,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah. Let's go for that. All right, so we'll wish the best to the Pats that moved on from us, and welcome the new ones, and welcome to the team, and hope to see you and have some success going forward. All right. Good night, everyone.
Talk to you later.
See you at the rink. Bye. Patscast is a proud member of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. If you're interested in other homegrown podcasts with a wide variety of topics, check out saskpodcastnetwork.com.